is that gestures of radical solidarity end up being co-opted by this liberal center, by the Hillary Clintons of the world, just as a metonym for what I'm trying to get at.
Could you give an example of what you're saying? Give an example of,
Right.
of the co-opting of it. How does
Right.
it look and feel?
So I mean, one thing that I think about is the way the nonprofit industrial complex, for instance, takes over radical organizing that's happening on the ground with people putting their bodies on the line and facing police violence. You see this a lot in, like, amongst Black communities. You see this in St. Louis. I've read people talk about how organizing has been co-opted by institutions like the Ford Foundation, for instance, which give a lot of good funding and allow a lot of good work to happen, but they always come with stipulations about, like, there's a line that you don't cross, right? So I guess I'm wondering, how do we prevent our movements and these gestures of solidarity that you're calling for from being co-opted by the really powerful interests, whether they're in the Democratic Party or in the financial industry or the nonprofit sector?
I mean, I think that most of us here are grassroots organizers or grassroots activists. I mean, I think that, you know, the power is in the grassroots. I mean, I'm one of these people. I work for an NGO now, and I'm constantly reminding, you know, the team, and I think that we have agreement that, you know, we can't do any of the work that we're trying to do, you know, national policy-wise, unless we're building a strong base at the grassroots. So, like, and reminding people on the East Coast that St. Louis matters, that the Midwest matters, the South matters, the West matters, you know, like, so I think that, you know, we have a job to play of, like, making a lot of noise here in St. Louis. Like, I would really love to see a lot of challenge, you know, during this next period leading up to the elections. Like, let's be out there in force. Like, you know, when they're rallying, I don't care who it is, what candidate it is, there's something to challenge them on. Every single one of them has something that they need to be better on. So let's be out in the streets, let's push them, and let's be thinking about you know, how to challenge, you know, white supremacy in all its forms together. Because this is a really beautiful group of people, and we don't need salaries to make some noise on a Saturday. We can do it. Y'all came here for 4 hours today on a beautiful Saturday, so let's commit to being together in the future too.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add, I think, is the way that particular Jewish institutions with money get to determine what organizing looks like. And, you know, other folks in here have experienced that as well. And so I think creating those spaces outside of those institutions where we can also envision and talk about, you know, our own goals and desires, and reclaim, you know, Judaism and Jewishness back from the state of Israel, because there's a collective amnesia about what Judaism is outside of it, right? And there's that conflation a lot too. I was at a wedding recently where I did one of the prayers in Hebrew for the people getting married, and someone said, "Aren't you embarrassed to be, you know, praying in Hebrew because it's like it's what the Israeli state does?" And it was like, well, this is an ancient Hebrew language, and like the Israeli state is a separate thing. And I explained it, but you know, it was like this idea that if you're claiming something about your Jewishness, it's necessarily Zionist. And I think, like, asserting those differences is really important, and claiming our own space and our own vision outside of these institutions.
I'll just add a couple things. Grassroots is where it's at. Your personal relationships are really important. So know that through personal relationships is how you really move people. So talk to your people, whether you're in a group or even your friend who there's that one thing that you think they need to move on, like, go for it. It is worth it. Lastly, when people are like, I'm not an organizer, I don't know how to fit in, yet I want to, like, make a change, I want to be part of something. There's like a million ways to fit in by donating money ethically to these grassroots organizations who could really use it. donating time. So like there's people here looking after your children right now. That's like a form of radical organizing. Practical support, transportation, things like that. And then there's a lot of campaigns happening now that we will speak about at the end, about how you can plug into more active organizing outside of those practical support things. That is all, sorry.
All right, so